Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yeah, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are radio for the local craft beer movement. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios at Ironmonger Brewing in Marietta, Georgia. I'm Tim Dennis.
And I'm Brian Hewitt. This week we're talking with James Massey of Savannah's Two Tides Brewing. They're one of Georgia's newest brew pubs, and they're making a big impression. James, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
James, we're enjoying your 6 foot right now.
Awesome.
You got to do a little 6 foot IPA, enjoying that quite a lot. And we will talk about that a little bit more in the show a little later. Brian, another busy week for us, another busy week of brewery visits and drinking and having good times, right?
Indeed, a lot.
We've on our quest to visit every brewery in Georgia in 2018. We ticked off 3 more this weekend. We went to Currahee, which used to be Hop Alley Brew Pub up in Alpharetta. They had their grand opening. We went there, went over to Jekyll, and then we went way up to Gainesville, Georgia for the brewery that's got wins the award for the best worst name for a brewery.
Best worst name.
Left Nut Brewing. So we went up there and checked that out, had some beers. What was your favorite of the trip, Brian?
Wow, that's a tough one. You know, it's going to be weird, but that Left Nut, that Magnifique quad that they had, that unusual tasting quad, might have been my favorite beer that I had. You know, that entire trip. That
was weird though, because it didn't taste like a quad.
No, not really.
But the toasty, caramely, coffee, roasty flavors that were in it were really nice. It was tasty.
Impressive.
So nothing I would have picked out as a quad, but it tasted nice.
For sure. Then we also did the GCBG.
That's
so
the one we
Georgia
did.
Craft Brewers Guild meeting, and checked out some of the Brewers Association presentations and statistics and all that neat stuff. And where we're at, quality control. That was fun. That was over at Pontoon. So I got a little of that floor is lava while I was
tasty.
there. And I got to see a lot of stats. Bart Watson was there doing some really cool stuff, showing us, trends basically, data, what it's showing us about the markets, the beer world.
If you were to guess what the number one selling beer style is, Brian, what one would you think that would be?
I would still guess it's IPA, but
you would be correct. That's a safe guess there.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
But breweries are continuing to grow. We're seeing a lot of growth there. There's over 6,500 breweries in the U.S. right now. Could hit 7,000 by the end of the year.
Yes.
And they said as many as 9,000 by the end of 2019. So,
which is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you get into any other beers this week? Anything else you check out?
I did. So I saw that the U.S. Beer Open, Eventide Kolsch got a bronze medal for it. And I was in the mood. It's warm out. I was like, I want a Kolsch. So I went out and got some Kolsch. Drank some Kolsch and helped them celebrate. And yeah, it was that. There was a little bit of this and that and other things, but for the most part,
Very cool. Sounds like a good week.
Yeah. All right. I think it is time now for Truck and Tap's Beers of the Week, Tim.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Woo-hoo! Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Brian, we got a lot of good beers this week. As you might imagine, we are drinking some of our guest beers. Two Tides Brewing Company out of Savannah, Georgia. We are currently sipping 6 Foot, which is a New England style IPA that I'm enjoying. It's hazy, it's juicy, it's tropical, it's everything you want there. And we also have a Two Tides Drowned Northeast IPA. So I don't want to drown in it, but I'm going to enjoy it. We had a fun one, Brian. We opened up a mystery can.
Oh, yeah.
Something I found in my fridge, a 16-ounce plain silver tall boy, which I actually thought was a can we got from New Realm when they first opened. But the beers we got from them were an IPA and a Golden Ale.
Yeah, the Commissioner, I think.
This is a nutty maple breakfast stout, and it's delicious, but I have no idea what it is.
It's a very intriguing. I saw that and I was thinking maybe that was Coffee Minotaur for a second, but I think that was a 12-ounce unremarkable can, like a plain can. But it's
tasty.
Not it. That's not
Whatever
it. It's definitely a different. It's awesome. I wish I knew what it was.
Yeah, me too. I'd like to get some more of it. So
I had some of that Anvil double IPA since we're here in Ironmonger as well. It's super fresh. It's nice.
Well, now let's find out what's happening in the news.
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
All right, just when you thought the big beer buyouts were cooling off, Constellation Brands has acquired Texas-based Four Corners Brewing. The purchase price was not disclosed, but Four Corners is going to join the ranks of Ballast Point and Funky Buddha in their craft and specialty beer group. Apparently, Constellation was attracted to Four Corners because of their, quote, bicultural take on beer, and most importantly, their five-fold growth since 2014. Big beer likes big growth, so I don't know what to say. Just
what is the
coming.
bicultural approach to beer that they're talking about?
So it's kind of a fusion, like Hispanic culture meets Texas culture. So it's apparently the markets involving Hispanic influenced products are hot right now, and that's what they're saying. We have seen a number of horchata beers in the news being released,
yes,
so
absolutely.
It's a thing, and they're trying to grab hold of that and get in front of that, I guess, is the plan. So that's what I know. It's huge news this week. So now, if you're looking for a reason to open a Belgian ale this week, and who isn't, Wednesday, July 18th is St. Arnaldus Day. Basically, it's a day that celebrates St. Arnaldus of Soissons, I believe I'm saying that right, from the 11th century, and his sage advice to the people living near his monastery during an epidemic. His advice, don't drink the water, drink my beer. And everyone lived happily ever after.
That sounds like really solid advice. He's a smart man. Became a saint, sold all his beer.
That's right. That's right. And don't drink the water. I didn't realize
don't drink the water.
That's kind of a theme for Belgium now. Don't drink the water, drink the beer. So we're all concerned with the environmental impacts of producing craft beer. You know, everybody is. This week we have a couple of interesting stories involving recycling from breweries on opposite sides of the globe. The first one is in Oregon, we have breweries that are testing reusable beer bottles. This is going to be the first statewide refillable beer bottle program in the U.S. These bottles are thicker than your typical bottles, and they can be reused up to 25 times. You can return the empties to the retailer or to special bottle drop facilities. But oddly, in this whole situation, the bottles are being shipped to Montana from Oregon for washing before being returned to breweries. But even with that shipping, supposedly this is an improvement over the single-use bottles in terms of the amount of energy and resources that go into producing them. So only a handful of breweries are doing it at this point, but a lot more have signed on, and it's mostly in the Portland area. So it's pretty interesting.
You know, I saw that they announced they were doing this, and cool idea, you know, beer in reusable bottles. But a lot of the articles that I saw were just blown away saying things like, why hasn't anyone thought of this before? Like they did. That's the way this used to be. Everything used to be in reusable bottles. You go back. So this isn't anything new. We're just returning to the old ways here, Brian.
That's true. And also, homebrewers are already doing this.
We've been on that. Homebrewers have been on that reusable game. We don't even have to ship them to Montana to get them clean.
That's right. Although maybe we should.
Maybe we should. It seems to be cost effective.
So now, in terms of recycling on the other side of the globe, we've got a Singapore brewery making a special beer with recycled water. They're calling it New Brew. It's a collaboration with their national water agency, and it's to celebrate their International Water Week. It's a global conference. They invite a bunch of people over. The beer was intended to highlight the quality of their recycled water program and also to highlight the importance and scarcity of water as a resource. So the story was particularly interesting to me, Tim, because I've actually been to the brewery in Singapore before. So it's kind of neat to see its name. It's Brewworks. And I looked at Untappd to see what the rating was on this recycled water beer. And I couldn't find it. So I don't know if it's not slated to become a full production beer, but they're actually taking feedback, and the feedback is positive. Who knows? It might become a full production beer down there for them.
Interesting stuff.
So we've got an interesting collaboration. I know a lot of people swear by Dunkin' Donuts coffee. They're going to be excited to hear that Harpoon is collaborating with Dunkin' Donuts on a coffee porter. There aren't a lot of details about it right now, and most of the reporting is on the label. So I think that means they just downloaded the image from the TTB website. But of course, it's going to feature Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I'm not sure if it's going to be the light or the dark roast. It'll be about 6% ABV and about 28 IBUs.
Coffee and donuts, man. Count me in for some of that, right? You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take a quick break, but we'll be back very soon to talk with James Massey of Two Tides Brewing right after this.
If you love wild, sour, and barrel-aged beers, be sure to check out the amazing offerings from Sweetwater's Woodlands, the Atlanta Brewery's barrel-aging facility. For the serious craft beer fan, the Woodland Circle Beer Club offers members 6 unique exclusive bottles plus other great perks. Series 2 is starting soon with more creative offerings from Cellarman Nick B. Visit the Woodlands in Atlanta, Georgia, follow Sweetwater Brew on social media, or get more information and sign up at sweetwaterbrew.com/club. That's sweetwaterbrew.com/club.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Shake it back!
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. For more great craft beer info, visit us on the web at beerguysradio.com. We're broadcasting from Beer Guys Radio Studios at Ironmonger Brewing, and we're talking with James Massey of Two Tides Brewing.
James, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Thank you, guys.
Man, so we are sipping your 6-foot IPA here. We're enjoying the can art and the beer. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that one?
6 foot. Yep, that's our flagship IPA at the moment. That kind of embraces the new wave of IPA, if you will, the New England style. It's most of the way there. It is soft on the palate, stone fruity, pretty saturated with hop flavor, little resiny, a little bit citrusy, but an easy drinking IPA, low bitterness, and that's kind of what we're going for in our IPAs.
So tell us a little bit about your journey from CPA to brewery owner. How did that happen?
Yeah, that's the age old story of a home brewer becoming a CPA, becoming a brewer. I think
time again. Yes.
History has shown itself. Yeah. Sophomore year of college, I believe, was when I started cooking up some meth. Home brew on the stovetop extract. Stuck with that for a few years. Got my undergrad and master's degree in accounting from Georgia Southern. Shortly after that, got my CPA degree and started practicing the lovely world of tax and audit, public accounting.
Sounds exciting.
Isn't it? And so, throughout that 3 or 4 or 5 years of college there and 5 years of public accounting, I was brewing a couple times a month. I never brewed the same. There was one recipe I brewed twice. Otherwise, it was 300-400 different beers there. So I went to work at my first job down in Albany, kept brewing, got an offer to come back to Savannah, did that. And then we just had this pipe dream all along of opening a little neighborhood brewery. And it was never really in the realm of possibility with the old set of Georgia laws, the archaic laws that said you had to have a tasting system and the ticketing system. So now we can sell a pint. It became a much more viable and small time idea. So we kind of said if that was ever to happen, we were going to do it. We got word the laws were changing, so we figured no turning back. Let's do it.
And here we are, man. So now, speaking of here we are, you've been here about 4 months now. Is that right?
4 months coming up on it. We opened St. Patrick's Day.
On St. Patrick's Day, which is a great time to open in Savannah, Georgia.
Yes. Yeah, we serve some green Bud Lights.
Absolutely. Right there. Homebrewed Bud Light. Good stuff. Now, since you are just a few months old, I'm sure all the headaches of being a new brewery owner are fresh in your mind, fresh wounds there. So what are some of the headaches for someone that's looking to get into the process right now? What are some of the pitfalls and headaches they should look out for?
Yeah, just know those wounds cut deep. It's not one thing. It's a million things. Know your beer, know your locality, as far as municipalities and opening a brewery where you are. That was quite a challenge for us, as we discussed earlier. know your business plan, know your lending, and then double that amount. It's always something. So, make sure you take your time with it. Don't rush it. Perfect as much as possible, and then do it.
That's something, talking about the lending and doubling it. We've heard that from bankers, accountants, the guild. Everybody says that. So that's probably one I think a lot of brewers need to go into. And I know there's a couple in Georgia that have been delayed a long time because they thought they did really good projections on cost needs. Mm-hmm. And it just comes up on you. There's always more. You do have to. Everybody thinks it's just a brewer's joke, I guess. Oh, we'll plan for double, but it's make sure to have some wiggle room there. Don't top out of the gate.
That's wise beyond your years, sir.
Absolutely.
It's said so often it can't be just a joke, even though it kind of is. Was there anything in particular in the process that really totally caught you off your guard? It sounded like you were pretty well planned out for a lot of this, but there had to have been a few things, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many wrenches in the architecture and permitting. A lot of the I don't want to get in trouble here, but our municipality thinks grains are spontaneously combustible. They're just going to ignite and burn down the building at any time. And I get it. Life safety is a big deal, but it's, there's just so many things getting this building from 1910 or 1915 up to code and suitable for a brewery use was quite a challenge. And back to the financial side, excuse me. You need X amount of fermenters and you need this X amount of brew house. Great. Go get a quote for it. But there are 3,000 tri-clamps you need. And it just, there's a million different little things that ends up being the same amount or double as everything that you thought you needed. So take what you need, double it.
Now, you mentioned that you had to get some zoning change to open your location. What was it specifically about the location that you're in that made that fight worth fighting?
It's kind of it's a great neighborhood. We knew we wanted to be in this neighborhood, and for whatever reason, this building was one of the only ones available. We fought to get in it. It's a very art centric neighborhood. It's very diverse, and that's what we love about it. There's a lot of local flavor in this neighborhood. It's it's got a lot of history, and we think it's it's kind of the next big thing without much of a gentrification, topic, but it's redeveloping. There's a couple music venues coming in, and more of a live, work, play, walk, bike friendly kind of neighborhood that's very art centric. And we fell in love with it and just knew we had to be a part of it.
So that kind of feeds into my next question is, how is the overall beer scene in Savannah? There are, 5 other breweries in addition?
I think 5.
Yeah,
I think 5. You hit the nail on the head. It's getting better by the day. When we came into this, we asked all the other breweries, along with every single one of our neighbors, hey, can we open a brewery in your neighborhood? Sure. We asked all the breweries if they thought it was okay if we opened a brewery in town, and they all said, yeah. The common theme was rising tides floats all ships. I'm not sure if you ever heard that or not, but competition is a good thing in this world. And we were welcomed by all of them. I think the beer scene in Savannah is getting better by the day. I'm not sure if you mentioned earlier or not, but Southbound, those are our boys. They just won a gold at the World Beer Cup for their Mountain Jam. Right? Yeah, the Mountain Jam, and a few more medals at the U.S. Open here recently. So I'm very proud of them. Very humbled to have them behind my back. Smith, their brewmaster, is my chief technical support officer, I like to call him.
Good stuff.
I lean on his shoulder a lot. He's great. They're great. The brewers, their whole team, Service, Moon River, Coastal Empire. It's a great group we have here, and I'm looking forward to the next breweries to come in town.
Good stuff. Just speaking of that Mountain Jam, it's a great beer, and on the U.S. Open Championships, Georgia had a strong showing there. So
they did.
I think 16 breweries and 29 medals.
That sounds about right. Yes.
So good stuff, man. It's great to see that Georgia really coming up. in the brew.
Yeah, that's great. We'll be sure to enter that competition next year.
Red got recognized
number
as
7
brewery overall. Yeah.
James, we're about to go to a break here, but I'm going to ask a little question before we go to the break. So we were joking on a show not too long ago about what breweries do to go to the next level. We've seen glitter beers and all this kind of thing. And we said, you know what? I bet the next thing they do is they're going to have daiquiri machines on the counter putting out And then I go on Facebook the next day and I see you're ahead of us, man. You were ahead of the curve on that one, right?
Yeah, we did our Chromatos, our blackberry sour in the old gas station frozen machine, and it's pretty sweet.
I bet in the hot Savannah sweltering humid heat, that's pretty refreshing, right?
It's great.
Awesome. We're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more from Two Tides Brewing right after this.
We are Reformation Brewery, celebrating the reformer in you. Locally crafted within the renowned Etowah watershed of Woodstock, Georgia, Reformation creates yeast-forward brews full of aroma and flavor crafted to last. Come see us in beautiful Woodstock, Georgia, for a tour and tasting of unique brews that you can't find anywhere else. Reformation Brewery. Set beer free. ReformationBrewery.com.
Are you thinking about opening a brewery in the Atlanta area? If so, take a look at the Park at Georgetown. This unique community will feature a collection of restaurants as well as a craft brewery located within the new JW Homes luxury development, Dunwoody Green. Conveniently located less than half a mile from I-285, this enclave of restaurants will be the gathering place in Dunwoody. Trim & Associates, the developer of the Park at Georgetown, wants to talk to you. For more information, call Stephen St. Paul at 404-256-2960, extension 5. That's 404-256-2960, extension 5.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, Real Talk 93.3 FM in Tallahassee, Florida. Catch Beer Guys Radio every Saturday at 5 p.m. on Real Talk 93.3 FM. We're broadcasting from Beer Guys Radio Studios at Ironmonger Brewing, and we're talking with James Massey of Savannah, Georgia's Two Tides Brewing.
James, when we went to break there, we were talking about some beer daiquiris, beer slushies, and the Chromatos there, and how delicious and refreshing that would be in Savannah's heat there. So we want to talk about your name, Two Tides. We think we may get where that's coming from, but does that have to do with the in and out, the rise and fall of the tides?
You got it. There are 2 tide cycles per day, 2 highs, 2 lows. That's it. We wanted something.
No long story there, man. That was done and done, right?
That's straightforward. So if there are 2 tides, does that mean we really should be having 2 different drinking sessions per day, like a high tide drinking session and a low tide drinking session?
I'm counting 4. I think we should do.
The in and the out.
How about
4 times? I don't.
More excuses, the better.
I'm not going to argue with his math there.
There's
no reason.
I am an accountant.
That's right. There you go. Yes.
So which beer pairs best with high tide or the growing of the tide, I guess, is what we're deciding on here.
That's a good question. I think 6 foot. That's a high tide beer.
Okay.
Low tide.
That's a good
Sounds
point.
like tan lines.
Tan lines. Okay. What about Tide Pods?
I don't think we're over that challenge.
No, I haven't done that one yet.
What about Red Tide?
Red Tide. Is that the
is that the algae
bloom? That's an algae,
yeah,
right?
I was going to say bacteria. Yeah, that's algae. We're working on that one. That one's in the pilot program right now.
I think we may have run out of all of our tide related questions there.
I think so.
Tide Pod. It's in the pilot system. And the red tide.
No, Brian, you actually do have another tide related question.
I do, actually. Okay. I do.
This is getting horrible.
It's really getting bad. So talking about red tide, I was curious if you possibly had a hazy, massively dry hopped red ale or red IPA called Red Tide in the works, because I think that'd be kind of neat considering.
I think you should come down and collab on that one.
There we go.
I like the idea.
We got that figured out.
On that.
Since we literally drowned in tide references there, I think this is a good time to open up this drowned IPA we've got here.
There you go.
James, can you tell us about this beer?
Yeah, so that's a beer we proudly collaborated on with Southbound Brewing Company. I think it was a very fitting first collaboration for us. They're our best buds. That is, it is more on the hazy side, of course, but that is a beer that Smith and I kind of met in the middle on as far as our styles. As far as the grain bill in particular, it is still fairly hoppy, particularly more so than what he's accustomed to. But it was what was it? Simcoe lupulin powder, Equinaut, and what was it? Citra? I don't know.
You got that lupulin
so
powder.
We're figuring out the powder.
Something in
lupulin. Bring it in there.
Do you use a fair amount of that in your beers right now?
I'm starting to use it more. It's a great tool. It does bring a little bit of a different characteristic of the hop to the table, but it is particularly useful with utilization. You can, by weight, use half as much and get the same amount of aromatics and flavor as a normal pellet hop. So it's a great way to yield more beer. But it is, it's trendy. It's fun. They're awesome. They're extremely concentrated in oils and aromatics. So they're fun to use. So we're certainly diving into those more about the day.
I've had a few people mention the efficiency in that with using that. You get more of your beer. Did you say you have a 20-barrel brew house?
No. We are a 4-barrel brew house. Okay.
All right. On your 4-barrel system, if you use lupulin powder, how much more beer do you get out of a batch there?
If it's an extremely dry hopped beer, if it's a New England style IPA like that Drowned, if we were to use all lupulin powder as opposed to hops, you would probably yield, 10%, 15% more beer, which would be, a couple sixtels, something like that.
Substantial.
Absolutely.
Always get as much as you can out of it there. So absolutely. Speaking of collaborations, you just talked about Southbound, and we saw you recently brewed with an Atlanta brewer, a fairly big name in the business. So Mr. Mitch Steele of New Realm came through and brewed a collaboration with you, correct?
Mr. Mitch Steele did. He is the man. That we were humbled to have him and the rest of the New Realm crew come by for a brew day. They're all great guys as well, doing great things in Atlanta. They're a couple months older than we are, but it was surreal to have the freaking Mitch Steele, the IPA legend, come down and brew a beer with us. It was amazing.
Very cool. Absolutely. So what kind of beer did you brew?
Would it shock you to tell you that we brewed an IPA?
It would. I actually tried to talk Mitch into not brewing any IPAs at all at New Realm to throw things on. And I suggested he go all non-alcoholic in Virginia Beach. So I'm just full of good ideas.
I think it's a great business model. Yeah. We brewed another IPA, and it's this one is more full out New England style. We used a hazy Vermont style yeast. We used some. I think we did a Pilsner and mostly oats base, but he brought down some grains. It was a Gold Pils Vienna, very nice malt. I think it's given us a great biscuity golden color of a wort. And for hops, we were using Equinaut lupulin powder, Simcoe, and Galaxy. So that should turn out to be a great beer. We'll be double dry hopped. As soon as I get done with this interview, I'm going to add the second dry hop, actually.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so that'll be out in a couple weeks.
Your branding is very strong. You've got some really great can art. You've worked with some local artists. Alexandria Hall, for one, that we found is doing art for the brewery, and she's done some of your labels. Does she do all of your art, or are there multiple artists involved in what you're doing?
She does most of it. She's a little more preoccupied with her day to day. So for the New Realm, we had another local artist, Mark, to do the label for that. But yes, she does most of our can labels, and she's actually in the process right now of redesigning them, keeping most of the same elements, but a lot more detail. When we first put together all these labels, it was all in a rather of a time crunch. So now she's going back and we're redoing all of them, putting a lot more detail in them, a lot more thought. So we're very excited with the way our can art is heading, and we're getting a new piece of canning apparatus that will help us put out a lot more cans available in the tap room. So we're really excited to show off her art.
So with your art, do you just does each beer kind of inspire that, or is there an overall vibe and feeling that you're looking for with the art you put out there?
Both. Each beer label is kind of played off the name, but they are certainly, like you said, indicative of our style. We do like geometry, a little bit of trippiness. We like to say tastefully weird. So we like to have unique kind of out there labels.
Maybe a hint of like 80s retro kind of pop type of stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. Feel free to look her up on Instagram and see some of her work. She's very talented.
So what are the front runners in your beer right now? What's the most popular? What are people when we're coming to Two Tides and want to drink your beer? What are they lining up for? What are they showing up for?
Yeah, well, ironically or not, our core beers, 6 foot. You just had that one. Tan Lines, I mentioned that one a minute ago. That is our dry hop Pilsner. That's kind of a bastard of a Pilsner. Not sure if I can say that word or not, but it is a Mexican lager yeast, German style, Pilsner based, American hops. I think it's a fantastic beer. That's one of my favorite beers right now. One of the more the ones I'm most proud of, I guess, and the least tweaked beer. And third one is Chromatose. That's our blackberry sour. People seem to like those three, and those are our best sellers in the tap room by far.
They all sound good to me. Chromatose, and you said Chromatose is the one you do frozen, correct?
We have done that one frozen. Pretty much any sour will pull off uncarbonated from the fermenter, a small amount, and put it in our fantastic gas station slushie machine.
Stuff, man. Can't argue with that. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take a quick break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more with Two Tides Brewing Company.
It's Brian and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock and Alpharetta are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks daily, so that way you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and coming soon to Duluth in 2018. Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
The Old 320 Beer Fest returns to Max Lagers in Atlanta, Georgia on July 21st, 2018. Attendees can enjoy unlimited beer samples from over 30 of the best southern breweries, an orphan bottle share, a chef's tasting room with gourmet bites from brewed to serve chefs, and live entertainment from Grateful Dude and Friends. Plus, enter the raffle for a chance to win an ultimate beer tour of Belgium and Germany with Brewtopia events. Find the Old 320 Beer Fest on Facebook or Fresh Tix for more info or to purchase your tickets now.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Make sure to follow us on the socials, Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio studios at Ironmonger Brewing, and we're talking with James Massey of Two Tides Brewing.
James, thanks again for joining us. We've enjoyed the conversation with you. We've enjoyed your beers.
Likewise. I've enjoyed your beers too.
Thank you so much. We appreciate. We don't hear that enough. Man. So I did want to ask you a question, a rumor we heard that actually Brian heard that you can all of your beer by hand right now. Is that true?
It's a very hands-on process. We use a Blitzman beer gun. I mean, it is sanitizing cans, purging, filling them, seaming them one by one. But as we mentioned earlier, we are awaiting some upgraded technologies to allow that to become a lot more efficient.
Good deal.
Yep, that's why we're not having very many cans available right now.
It's purely at the brewery at this point because of the intensive manual process, right?
Correct.
So a question I wanted to ask earlier, what is guest grain out?
That is a centuries-old tradition. I'm kidding. It's 4 months old. And two brewers now old. I just thought it was kind of a neat idea. And I'm pretty sure I've seen another brewery do that as well. But I just thought it was a cool tradition to start to have the guest get the grain out of the mash tun. Plus, I really just wanted to see Mitch Steele grain out my mash tun. That was pretty cool.
I was going to ask that.
That's it. Yeah. See, that's a genius idea to tell someone it's a tradition. The guest grain out is a time-honored tradition.
Exactly. And we actually, I gave him a fair shot at it. We have pinball in the brewery, and I said we're gonna play a game. Loser grains out. That guy whooped my butt in pinball in my own house.
Okay, there you go. That's what you get.
I guess. So I did most of it, but I didn't make him. I still made him do one bin's worth.
If you really want to sell it to brewers going forward, get a plaque. It'll save you a lot of, you get all the work. They feel like they did something, and they saved you some work too.
They get a plaque for graining out. Is that your suggestion? A plaque
on the wall with names of people who have done the guest grain out. See,
what about a wall like when you eat the massive cheeseburger? You get your picture on the wall with the empty plate.
Possibly better.
A shovel in the mash tun with you get a picture of them with one shovel of grain.
Yep, need the Polaroid.
We're building the brand here, James. We're getting this together, man.
Appreciate
it. They already have it of Mitch Steele. I saw the picture of him raking the grain out. Yeah.
They're good to go then. They're good to go. Now, we saw another thing that you did here that sounded kind of fun. You actually did an event with King of Pops, a little popsicle pairing. Is that right?
That's right. I think they're at the brewery right now, actually.
Okay, very cool. So give us some suggestions. If I'm sipping a 6-foot, what popsicle do I want to enjoy with that?
That might be your first problem. I haven't found much that pairs well with the IPAs. Granted, I haven't really tried. I just know that it's extremely easy to pair them with any sour beer. They have a few that are, raspberry lemonade, blackberry, whatever have you. Any of those go well with Chromatose. We had a lemon lime goza on the other week. That was great. And we have a new raspberry pomegranate beer coming out this weekend. Any of their fruited popsicles with any other fruited sour beers pairs excellent.
Now, I think King of Pops has actually done some alcohol popsicles, haven't they? Brian, do you know that? I think so.
I think they did or Frozen Pints, I think was a place locally that did some specifically alcohol related ice creams or popsicles or something like that.
So on those lines, have they taken any of your beer and turned it into popsicles?
They haven't. I'll get on that.
All right, there. You can check that out.
So I'm thinking if you're going to pair an IPA, theoretically, with a popsicle, you'd probably want things that commonly go into IPAs. We've got milkshake IPAs, so you got lactose. I've also had coffee IPAs. So maybe some sort of a coffee milk porter to go with your IPA and just try to blow your mind.
We should do that. We should see what we can figure out, Brian.
Exactly.
No, anything tropical, I would think would play with our IPAs as well.
Yeah. So maybe something a little more traditional, Savannah or Southern. How about if I'm having a good coastal low country boil? What beer should I grab then?
Tan Lines. That's the khaki of beer. Pairs well with
the khaki of beer. Are you?
Pairs well a lot.
Okay. All right. There you go. That sounds like a hashtag waiting to happen there.
You need to incorporate tan lines from khaki shorts that are riding a little low onto the can. I think that'd be a good idea.
There you
go.
Is
it though, Brian? Is it?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
So speaking of cans, I see, James, that you guys seem to favor the 16-ounce, the tall boy format. Is that a reason for it? Will all your releases be in the tall boy 16-ounce cans?
That is my preferred vessel of drinking beer from. And it was more of a logistical thing, being as small as we are, it was tough to get cans, southbound orders, a tractor trailer truck full of cans. We had to get a pallet of cans, so it was right. quite a challenge just to get one pallet. We chose 16s. I like 16s. Here we are.
Especially if you're doing it by hand, get as much as you can in each can as possible, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, talking about, packaging and whatnot. So what is your plan at the brewery? Are you looking to expand and put your beer into distribution, do a lot more canning, put a lot more kegs out? Or are you looking to kind of be the hyper local brewery, brew pub type of feel? What's the plan there?
The plan is, it is to focus on the now. We're trying to make this brewery, the tap room, the beers, as best as possible. It's a day in, day out process. So there really are no expansion goals. There are plenty of efficiency goals. One of which I mentioned a number of times now, is upgrading our canning capabilities. That is not to put beer in market. That is just to put beer in our tap room and have something for our patrons to take home and share with their friends. Kegs around town. That's about as far as I see them making. A few have made it to Augusta. I think the New Realm collab will send a few beers up to Atlanta. But otherwise, no, we're sticking with the hyper-local thing. That was the idea from the start, and that is the idea for this foreseeable future.
So with the cans, the collaboration with New Realm, how soon would we be seeing that potentially, do you think?
I think turn of the month. I believe we're looking at a release date in Savannah last week of July, and around about the same time in Atlanta.
So that is going to release in Atlanta. That's going to come over here as well?
It is. We're talking about doing a dual tap takeover. I don't want to give too many details yet since nothing is finalized, but sending a few of our beers up, their beers, dual tap takeover, along with the collaboration beer.
That'd be cool. That's a lot of the folks here in Atlanta do want to get their hands on your beer. Those that have made it over to Savannah to check it out and that. Getting good reviews here in Atlanta. The beer geeks are on the search for that beer.
That's great.
And so I had a question for you. Speaking of your beer and being good and people looking for it, it's kind of known, I guess the best way to put it, that when a new brewery starts up, even if the home brewer has been an excellent home brewer, that it can take them a little while to kind of dial their system in and get those beers just right. But you came out of the gate pretty strong. So what is your trick there, and what's your tip for a brewer that's starting off to maybe jump the gun as much as they can out of the gate?
Yeah, I mean, the science is still the same. I can't lift up the pot or the fermenter and scrub it out by hand anymore. So there are a lot of, logistical type of differences between the home brewer and pro game. But knowing your system is... I kind of got lucky. Our system is pretty easy to brew on, or it's pretty easy to get kind of more consistent beers. It is extremely manual, so it takes 100% attention pretty much throughout the brew day. So there are a lot more chances of human error, but it is capable of producing decent beers right out the bat. So I think we got kind of lucky there. And again, the science is the same, so I stuck with what I know. I think it's working out for now.
Are you still dialing in your recipes, or are you pretty set on what you got there?
Absolutely. Different beers. Tan Lines is where it needs to be. I'm very happy with that beer. It's very simple. There's not much to change. 6 Foot is undergoing a lot of changes right now. I feel like since we're not putting much beer out to market, that I do have a little bit more liberty to get comfortable. And that's just been a tough thing with me. Earlier in the show we mentioned, I've brewed, as a home brewer, I brewed, hundreds of beers. Never brewed the same beer twice. So I guess there was one beer I brewed twice. So it's very hard for me to settle. That's what I am trying to do right now. We're bouncing on yeasts. We're bouncing on formulation, not so much hops, a little bit grain bill. But 6 Foot is undergoing a few changes. Tan Lines is great. Chromatose, a few changes. Everything else is pretty much one-off. We want to do, a couple new beers each month. So yes, there are some changes being undergone.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to keep up with all things Two Tides, please visit their website at twotidesbrewing.com or follow them on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
Thanks, James. We appreciate it, man. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks, guys. Likewise. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Coming up next week, we're going to be talking with the folks from Reformation Brewing. Remember to subscribe to Beer Guys Radio on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app, and please do leave us a review. If you really enjoyed this show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Our patrons get early access to all episodes, and you can also get commercial-free episodes. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.